the Nepal army has taken charge of national security, imposing a fresh prohibitory order till 5 p.m. today amid continued violence and arson during Gen Z protests. Essential services remain operational. Calm has returned to Kathmandu, but under heavy security. Meanwhile, 63 Nepali inmates trying to enter India were nabbed by the SSB along the Indo-Nepal border. The Nepali army has requested one and all not to leave their homes except for essential work.
The formation of the interim government here in Nepal is almost imminent. There have been hectic negotiations that have been underway. Sushila Karki, the former Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Nepal, could be becoming the first female Prime Minister of Nepal. Even though it's an interim government, it's a big, massive mandate that the youth and the Gen Z of Nepal have given her. But the announcement might happen soon. But we have with us a journalist here at the Reporters Club in Kathmandu to help us explain what's happening right now. Prince Mishra, thank you very much for joining us. You've been covering and traveling all across Kathmandu to get people the latest updates.
Of course, Aditya, whatever scenario is going on in Kathmandu, we are so much devastated, and we are also a panic because the whole country is at the panic moment right now, and we hope that Nepal must go through an interim government right now. Especially you have taken a name like Sushila Karki and Balendra. Yeah, Balendra is supporting Sushila Karki, and we hope, we wish, let's see, by today, might be President will appoint her as a first Lady Prime Minister of Nepal. Sushila Karki might be going to be first Lady Prime Minister of Nepal.
Constitution has failed, and these parties are trying to set a trap on us by saying Constitution should be alive and this Constitution should back up. But the Constitution doesn't has any provision to do direct election till now. And the main demand was anti-corruption, direct election of Prime Minister and other ministers. But this Constitution doesn't allow it. And to amend the Constitution, we should have the persons who were elected by people. If we bring back them, what is the reason to do the protest? Where we end up? We are only in the verge of trap. Everywhere every step we are taking forward, we are in the trap. We are in the trap of this government.
Reporting from Kathmandu, this is Aditya Rajkol for NDTV.
All right, Sikta Deo joins me live from Kathmandu. She's outside the President's house. I believe we also have Aditya Rajkol joining us from Kathmandu. Sikta, coming to you first, just give us a sense of what's happening on the ground. We believe that today is one of those relatively calmer days, but tell us what's really happening around you.
Yeah, it's calm and peaceful on the city roads, but there's calm and peace in front of President's house too, as you can see. But every little movement is being closely watched. We saw the army chief going inside the President's house, and we believe anytime Sushila Karki can also reach here for the meeting. Here you can see the army vehicles getting in. 2 days back, this was the protest site. The President's house was also attacked by the protesters, and right now the arrangements are being made for the preparations for the new interim government to take over. Well, the suspense is who will be in that government and what will be the formula to lead and decide the leader, the next caretaker Prime Minister for Nepal. So that's the bigger question which we are waiting to hear finally from the President's house. Final press release or some appeal or any kind of official statement is yet to come out, but there are possibilities that the final name could be Sushila Karki, who has been in marathon meetings with the army chief, the Chief Justice and the President of Nepal. And right now you can see a lot of movement, and here the army chief is coming out. Vedika, you can see the army chief's vehicle is just coming out. So he had come in for a quick meeting with the President, and now he's moving out. Let's wait and watch. Have they arrived at some final decision? We also hear Army Chief has been talking to various groups of the Gen Z protesters and getting a sense of what they want, what names do they actually want in the interim government and as their leader. So yeah, we are waiting to hear finally from the President House, but no final word from here. But a lot of movement, as you can see in these pictures, Vedika.
Sikta, do stay with me. I have Ankit Tyagi also joining me live from Kathmandu, as well as Aditya Rajkol. Aditya, there's this there's a search for the next person to take over Nepal, the next leader. There are hectic parleys on. Like Sikta just pointed out, you had the army chief meeting with the president of Nepal. Tell us more about that search. Are we going to hear names shortly? We know of front runners here, but we really don't know who the leader will be, who will be elected to lead a country that has just gone through violent protests, that has unseated its prime minister.
Well, that's right, Vedika. Over the last few days, there's been a lot of uncertainty. There's been a lot of surge as well, and a search really for the big leader, a non-political face who is not controversial, who actually can provide the kind of leadership and governance that Nepal really requires amidst violence and chaos. Well, the message has been conveyed by the Gen Z very clearly that they will tolerate no corruption, they will tolerate no Nepo kids or the political elite here in Nepal. So they want a very honest and a transparent government here. So that's why we are seeing hectic parleys with the Gen Z groups, with Sushila Karki and several others who are trying to see how soon this government formation can happen. As sources are telling us, one of the main contentions was that will the parliament be completely dismissed, or will Gen Zs be also included in the ministerial berths of the temporary interim government that could be finalized by this evening. It's almost imminent now that Sushila Karki could be given the charge of the interim prime minister. She would be in fact the first female prime minister of Nepal after becoming the first female chief justice of the Supreme Court of Nepal. Apart from that, the victim families have come here. I'm reporting from the Reporters Club here in the heart of Kathmandu, where the victim families of more than 35 people who have lost their lives, who were killed in the brutal violence by the police, are demanding for justice. They're saying that the government will go and a new government will come, but what about the victim families who they support the Gen Z completely, but at the same time they are saying that what about their loved ones, their wives, sisters, older parents, etc., who need a government job, who need a financial assistance.
All right, there seems to be a connectivity problem there with Aditya's frame, but we're going to go to Ankit Tyagi in a moment from now. But before that, who are the front runners? We've been talking about these hectic parleys. We've been talking about the army chief meeting with the president of Nepal. But the first front runner that we know of is Sushila Karki. She's Nepal's first female chief justice, and she has a very untainted record, is also what we know. She was appointed on the 11th of July 2016, known for her zero tolerance really to corruption. That's why she's one popular face when it comes to a choice to leading Nepal. Also has presided over high-profile anti-corruption cases, has faced an impeachment attempt in 2017. The motion withdrawn after public and judicial backlash goes on to show how popular she has been as a Chief Justice as well. But she's not the only one we're talking about. Next on the list also is a man called Kulman Ghising. He's the ex-MD of Nepal Electricity Authority associated with NEA for over 2 decades. He's also got a lot of experience, because of which he is one of the names that are doing the rounds, experience in power trade as well as distribution, resolve Nepal's long-standing power crisis. Like I said, a very experienced man. Gen Z protesters propose his name as the next prime minister. And he's not the second, but there's also a third person here that we're going to talk about, another front runner. You've all heard of Balendra Shah, a reticent man. And that is something that our correspondents on the ground have also been telling us. Born in Kathmandu in 1990, barely speaks to the media is what we know. He won the 2022 mayoral election. He's a rapper, studied structural engineering in India, so has deep connections in India as well, and uses music to address issues like corruption. A very, very popular man there. Ankit Tyagi also live with us. Ankit, there's this race really, time running out. There's a lot of pressure on people there to name a leader. Those are the 3 front runners that we just spoke of, giving their profiles there. But what's the sentiment on the ground? Who do people really want? Is it really divided among these 3 faces? What are the chants you're hearing around Kathmandu?
Well, there will be hardly anybody who would be on the streets talking about this, but it's a very crucial phase. After the young people, the Gen Z brought revolution in 36 hours, they brought the government to its knees. but the difficult part starts now. How to bring peace, stability in Nepal, and that is what the deliberations are. In fact, as I said, like our colleague Sikta, I'm also outside the Sheetal Nivas, the official residence of the President of Nepal. And here what is expected in about an hour or so is a big meeting where the former Chief Justice, the first woman Chief Justice, Ms. Karki, is also expected to be here. And there is expectation today that there would be some shape and form, at least that the leadership, the interim leadership would be announced. The army chief was here. The army, remember, is playing a very important role as far as the way forward for Nepal is concerned. And he left just a short while back from this very area. Now, like you said, there have been a few names which have been doing the round, and among those, there has been little reluctance from somebody like a Balendra, who is quite popular as far as the youth are concerned here in Nepal. You were talking about he barely speaks to the media. We were speaking to people around him and close to him, and they've been saying that he doesn't need to speak to the media. Whatever he says on his social media post goes viral in Nepal, and that is message enough as far as that man is concerned. Many believe that he, rather than taking over the interim government, is preparing for whenever the elections take place in Nepal, and then of course he would be a very important player in once the election process takes place. So at this moment there is, while there have been various talks about different names, but Sushila Karki seems to be one of the front runners. She's expected to be here at about 2 o'clock, and whether that formal announcement, because like I said, 36 hours took for this revolution to bring the government on its knees, but it has taken longer, and the consensus is yet elusive. Whether that happens today or not, because otherwise the people, those who have been fighting on the streets, they will lose patience. So that is also something that is very much in the mind of the Nepalese army, and of course the people, those who have been negotiating, that they would want very clearly by today evening or by tomorrow at least an interim government head and few people, those who can be those who have standing in with the Gen Z, those who have standing with the various groups, those who have been protesting here. They can have a direct line with them, and at least an interim government to be put in place so that the process forward can begin.
Crucial couple of days there in Nepal, in Kathmandu. Hectic parleys on is what our correspondents on the ground are telling us. There are front runners who will form the interim government. Only time will tell. Also, NDTV 24/7 has been speaking to a lot of people from Kathmandu, from other areas in Nepal. We've got your voices of journalists and civil citizens as well. Today, my colleague Prerna Sharma spoke with retired Nepal Army officer Major General Binoj Basniat. Listen in.
So things seems to be under control since yesterday, and army seems to have taken over the control. So how do you see this calm after the chaos which happened?
Okay, things are, slowly going into normality, but with the potentials of uprising again. And what we have to really think about right now is the outcome, the political discourse for Nepal's stability and credibility. That will have an impact to both Nepal and India's relationship because of our geographic proximity as well as our civilizational connect. But we are in good hands. We have the Gen Z, the peaceful protesters who are very responsible, at the same time looking for a shift and a change. And the other is the president's office, who represents the constitution, and the Nepalese army, which is very serious about the national security concerns.
So I was asking, so what is the way forward from here? What you see as the way forward from here?
Since the uprising itself is come out with a modern thinking and a modern way out, I think the traditional way of thinking by the, let's say, the president's office have to be looked into. That is one, dissolve the parliament. Second, form an interim government with expertise and professionals on merit-based. And the third would be a forming of three commissions. One is a commission for any political constitutional amendments, and the second would be to form a commission to look into the misuse of authority, particularly on corruption. And the third would be on the human rights issues of handling of protest, not just today, but even the post-protest that was handled previously.
So there seems to be a serious difference of opinion on the issue of leading the country among the Gen Z protesters. So what do you have to say about that?
I mean, the Gen Z protesters are very clear. Together with the proposal is the ex-Sushila Karki, the ex-Chief Justice. And but I think there is more a difference between the political parties that have been influencing the president.
And do you see any unanimous decision coming very soon or sooner? What do you have to say about
I mean, I think it's getting late, but not too late. I hope it comes by this evening.
Let's go back to Sikta. She's still live with us from outside the presidential house in Kathmandu. Sikta, Gen Z is also demanding the dissolution of parliament. They're also demanding amendments to the constitution. Tell us more about this.
Right, Vedika, the Gen Z's priority list starts with dissolving the parliament because they have lost trust in the political class and they want these parliamentarians to go like the government they had targeted and thrown out in just 40 hours. So that's the priority. They wanted the army chief to recommend to the president that he should dissolve the parliament immediately and then move on to the next step, which is getting the interim government in place and who's going to be the leader, getting that also on the same page and getting it on a consensus. Well, that has been the bone of contention, and we believe there are reports that President is very clear that whatever happens within the constitution. Dissolution of parliament is not an option right now because there will be a vacuum if he dissolves the parliament, and the caretaker government will again be like a supreme leader. The caretaker prime minister would be the supreme leader leading the country. So that vacuum, how do they fill the vacuum? Then they have to go into elections immediately. So that has been one of the major discussions going on between the army chief and president, and there's no consensus on that between the two. But Gen Z protesters, yes, they want the parliament to be dissolved as soon as possible and the interim government to take over.